Hello, my name is Sandra Perrone. I'm an associate professor teaching photography, philosophy, and honor seminar courses here at Springfield Technical Community College. I'm also the gallery coordinator of the Amy H. Carberry Fine Arts Gallery located in Building 28. The Carberry Gallery exhibitions are intended to foster intellectual engagement and dialogue beyond the traditional classroom. This learning environment attempts to break preconceived notions of a gallery as an exclusive space while sharing who artists are and what they create to inspire students to pursue their creative endeavors and career goals. One of the primary objectives of the gallery is to bring to campus a wide range of media, ideas, and artistic practices which expose students to an array of creative and intellectual work. At Stcc, we have fine arts courses open to everyone, and the importance of visual literacy to every student's overall educational experience cannot be understated, no matter the major. This is a special live and virtual event today in a series called The Carberry Conversations. Originally conceived in response to the ongoing pandemic, each interview covers a wide variety of topics, including origin stories, the impact of current events on the artistic process, the function of art and photography during times of crisis. Today we have with us Baltimore artist Kumasi J. Barnett with us, live and in the gallery. And we have Mile peer mentors and students who will ask some questions directly to Kumasi. MILE is the acronym for Male Initiative for Leadership and Education, which is a special program here at Stcc to support male students of color. Barnett lives in Baltimore, Maryland, received his MFA at The Ohio State University, and is a proud graduate of the Dundalk Community College. His works have been exhibited widely in the United States and abroad, including exhibitions at the Lowell Ryan Projects in Los Angeles, California, which is also his gallerist, the Spring Break Art Show in New York City, the Zeist Museum of Contemporary Art Africa in Cape Town, South Africa, the Boca Raton Museum of Art in Florida, and the Peel Center in Baltimore, to name a few. Barnett's work has appeared in Art Forum, Ammo, Vibe, Hyperallergenic, Huffington Post, Art News, and The Guardian. Welcome, Kumasi J. Barnett, to Carberry Conversations.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we are super excited to have you. We are on day 2 of live events, and we're coming to everyone today from the gallery. But I do want to just say a couple of things. So I first heard about your work from my dear friend and fellow artist Adele Mattern, who coincidentally turned out to be someone you went to grad school with.
Yes.
So, and then I also went to grad school in Baltimore. So I feel like we have this half-degree separation.
You went when I was going to grad school. You went at the same time.
Yes. So we weren't even aligned in Baltimore, but now we are.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
It's just funny. How close we're all connected.
Yeah, I think when I left, you came.
Yeah.
And that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to start with a question from one of our MILE peer mentors and students.
Sweet.
Tyrone.
I don't know if MILE is very similar to when I was in College Park for undergrad after DCC. I was a McNair scholar, and the McNair program actually is designed to take young people of color and first generation to grad school, so to take them to that next level. And also, like, it's a first year program, so when you get in as a freshman, you have support.
So you know the value of these programs.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Would you like to introduce yourself? My name is Teron Rowe. I'm a peer mentor for the MILE program at STC. And I would like to ask you, why did you pursue art?
Oh, so I was working in the field and I was doing actual work, and a situation happened where I could have done that for the next 25 years. And then I had to decide what to do. And between the two things that were out there, I knew that I could do math. I like math a lot, and I enjoy doing it, and it's fun. and I could do art, specifically painting. But I knew that if I did math as a career, I would still be painting. So I might as well do the thing that I would want to do all the time. And yeah, I also tried architecture, but it took the fun out of art and math, which was weird.
Did you have any artistic influences growing up? Like, do you remember like going to museums, or like, did you have a favorite artist, or did you have family that maybe were into art?
My mom did graphic design when I was growing up, but she did it here and there, and she is an amazing quiltist now. So she teaches quilting, and she's done a co-taught class at MICA with that. And when we went to museums, my dad, who is a jerk, but a very entertaining one, we would go to museums and we would look at stuff, and he'd be like, "Oh, you could do that." Yeah, we'd be at the BMA, and he'd be like, "Go on, you could do that." And we were like, 11 and 12, so that really stuck with me. And when we went back, when I was in Dundalk Community College, I said the same thing while the art teacher was walking us around. I was like, "Oh, I could do that." And she said, "Well, then you'll get an A," which was the best response I've ever heard, because she could have been like, "No, you can't." But yeah.
Right, but it's having those kinds of mentors in your life, right?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, you don't even realize it many times in that moment, that is, you're being told, yes, you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was really important because we were poor, like not broke, but poor. And so like those moments are really important, and just knowing that like you can do stuff is really important.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
So we're in the gallery right now. Your show, Mercantales, The Amazing Black Man's Mercantales, is on view until November 10th. And I'm wondering if we can talk, we should talk about some of the things that we have on view here.
Sure.
So you have this superhero character, the Amazing Black Man. Can you describe him?
Sort of. I like to think of it, him as an everyman, like a fuzzy version of what it is to be an American and to live in America if you're not conventionally accepted into society here. Like, I stopped counting like how many black people were in things and started counting just how many non-white people were in things when I would see a movie, and how long it got to the point where we would see a non-white person, and then like a non-white person who said something, and then like, were they a guy or were they a woman? So that character is a stand-in for everything in all of those situations, but not a specific person. That's why there aren't really facial features, because it's an insert for people to associate with.
Right. So we have a question from Xavier. Is Xavier here?
So Xavier's not here, but I have a stand-in.
Okay, great.
Carlo, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Carmelo Sullivan, academic counselor in the MILE program. We wanted to know what real-life events inspired your artwork with comic books.
So, like, unfortunately, most of the situations are either situations that I've been through or situations that I have direct experience with friends and family that I've been through. Some of the more political specific instances are derived from study of art history, but most of like the research-based things that I do are a backup to lived experience. I don't think I ever had a good experience with a police officer. No, a neutral experience with a police officer till I moved to New York. And like I was walking down the street in Brooklyn and one was like, "Oh, there's a Starbucks around here? Where is it?" And I was like, "That's weird." So those experiences are what makes it into the work. And unfortunately, every Black person I know has a police story, has a racial story, has a story that formed very much before they were like 15, that directly is the same as these stories. Like it might not be exactly the same, but like it rhymes.
So the character that you created, the amazing black man, is based, or not based on, but you use the amazing Spider-Man in a lot of ways, right? As the template, right?
Yeah.
So instead of it being the red, blue Spider-Man, you've altered that character. You've created a hoodied character, a dark-skinned character. It's the gray instead of a bold red, right? What is one of the superpowers that you gave the amazing black man?
His superpower is survival.
Yeah.
Like, Spider-Man never gets a clean win, but he is moving on from day to week in these situations. Because sometimes it's just about getting to the next day. So, yeah, in the situations that everybody has been put in, it's survival. That's the main superpower.
And so he's also, there's a whole cast of characters throughout the gallery, right? And could you describe some of the other characters that the amazing black man is engaged with?
Well, I would more say they're, I'll describe them in terms of the titles. So, like, there's the media's thug, the fanatic fear that issues out. There's racist comics. There's invincible black man. There's a lot. I like to think of them individually as each one is a story, but as a collective, they tell the whole story. So one by one, he and they are interacting with each other. There's this Mark Twain quote about like a book should be able to be read in any order. And I feel like these can be read in any order, in any combination, and they still tell the story, but they tell it a different way. So, but people who see it, they know what it is. They know what it is. I don't have to explain it.
Well, that brings me to a question from another peer mentor student, Miguel.
Oh, that one's actually me. So
Miguel. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You mean
Miguel,
the
director.
Miguel Maria.
Miguel Maria,
Director of
director
Mile.
of the Male Initiative for Leadership and Education program. So my question was, I was looking at referencing a specific comic book cover that I was looking at. It was titled Character Assassination, which portrayed a police officer choking a black man, the main character. And it instantly had me thinking about the murder of Eric Gardner. So do your comic book covers, do you often portray them in terms of actual real life events that may not be directly associated with you, but just things that are going on in society?
The short answer is yes. The longer answer is they are all born out of actual events. The ones that aren't directly happening to me need more research, need more understanding. But yeah, yes. I will never talk about exactly which event or which situation goes to which comic or goes to which image, because they're, in a sense, they're allegories. Like, they're stories we tell our children to be safe, and we're stories we tell each other to be safe or to understand what the world is and what America is as we live here. So,
We have another question from, I think, a student, but it might be Miguel Maria again. Jalil? Jalil?
My name is Guadalupe Drew Torres, class president. Jalil's question was, which comic book cover has received the most attention from the viewers?
It depends at the time, because The Amazing Black Man gets, I think, the most attention, but some of, like, it's not here, I don't think, but there's one with Shazam, which is just the N-word, and it's like one magic word. It's like you can change with one magic word. And that one gets a lot of attention, whether positive or negative. And unfortunately, I can't say the N-word. I've said this before. Somewhere in high school, my accent turned to this, and when I say it, it sounds weird. And my brother pulled me aside and said, look, I know we're twins, and I know what's going on, but like, it sounds funny when you say it. and it makes me feel funny. And so like that one really, it gets me, and I really enjoy the interaction with it, because either people are like, oh yeah, I love this, this is dead on, or they run. So.
So do you think, as an artist, you have a certain amount of control in conveying these messages through your artwork? Like, do you feel like you're reaching your audience? Is your message clear?
I am of the thought of, once the artist knows what the artist is doing, but once it goes out into the world, it lives its own life. Because I can't stand in front of all of them and tell you what they are. You have to complete that. So I like to leave them open. But I know exactly what each one means to me and what each story is for each one. But I'm not going to argue with you about that. Like, that's like, there used to be this series on VH1 where it was storytellers, where the songwriters would tell you about their songs. And like, a great songwriter would get up there and they would play this amazing song, and then they would tell you about this girl that broke up with them. And you're like, really? Like you've been married for 10 years, you got kids, and the song was so much deeper than that. And so like, I think the people that see it know what it is. Yeah.
There's another question from a Miles student. Christian? Are we going to ask on behalf?
Yeah.
Christian was unable to be here today, so I'll ask the question for
He'll be missed.
Christian. What motivates you to create new ideas? How do you keep your artwork fresh?
So the thing about artist block is it's never artist block. It's that you think everything that you make is bad. Like, so you're still working. It's just that as soon as you start working, you throw things away. It's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with poetry. And so I put things in a drawer. If something is halfway finished or if something I think is terrible, I put it aside where I can't see it, and then I come back to it. So I'll have piles of things that are in different stages. And if everything sucks, I'll go out and buy stuff, and I'll go out and like get new comics, or I'll just take a day off. It's easier to refresh yourself, come at something that's been bothering you after you've taken some time off. Like, people are like, I want to work 12 hours a day. Well, if you took a nap, you might have gotten that done in 8. And that's my philosophy. Like, I will throw a whole day away. Like, if I'm at noon or 11 and nothing has gone right, like my coffee tasted bad, there was traffic on the way to going somewhere, and like I could do some stuff. No, I'm just gonna go home. I'm just gonna do some fun stuff. So
you were an abstract painter.
Yes.
Before you started this body of work. You have said in many interviews that this body of work specifically came out of the killing of Freddie Gray in 2015. So you have like life before the pandemic, like life after. Did the pandemic have an impact on this series, like your ability to create more or less, or are there other things that have happened in those intervening years?
The pandemic, the pandemic is weird. The pandemic gave me a ton of time to spend with my family, which was amazing. And like, I don't know that I can go back to working as hard and traveling as much as I did before. In terms of the work, like I just had enough time to finish the things that I really, really needed to finish. This feels much more like who I am as a person, and the abstract work is much more about what I think about as an artist and as an art historian and as a researcher when I'm doing that stuff. So that stuff comes directly out of the library into the hand and into the art. And this comes directly from me into the world and then goes different places. But I think there's a thing where people don't really want to let you change your mind, right? Like if you decide to be an architect or an accountant or a lawyer or an artist or a painter, you have to do that the rest of your life. Like you've decided. If I was to say I don't want to be an artist anymore, I am just going to be an accountant. Like that's fine. That's fine. And
So what would you say to students then who are, just starting out? Many of our students are, they're in their first or second year of college. Maybe they've gone to college and then they're coming back and they're a little bit older. But what would you tell them?
oh, a bunch of things. Number one, when you get to be like 50, like a year doesn't seem that long. Like it seems like, oh, I could do a year standing on my head. Like I could suffer for a year. So another thing is like if you don't know what you want to do, that's fine. There are a lot of people who are my age who don't know what they want to do. A lot of my friends don't know what they want to do. Like I tell the story about my dad all the time. He's 72. He's going to retire in like 3 or 4 years. He drives a truck, and after he retires, he's thinking about driving a school bus because he doesn't think he'll leave the house, and that will get him out the house 2 times a day, 5 days a week, and then he can just stay in the house and watch TV the rest of the time. And that's like, that's fair, but like, if you don't know what you're doing, like, don't worry about it. You got 10 years to mess up before you really need it to like settle down. Just don't have any children. Children will suck up all the time that you have. Like the money is one thing, everybody talks about the money, but they suck up every free second. And I didn't have them until I was much older because I'm incredibly selfish and I wanted to do my stuff. And like, I would just, I wouldn't beat yourself up. Like just.
Yeah. Well, it's a great time to experiment, right? I mean, when you're doing your first, second year, to try different courses of study, different subjects. I mean, if you weren't an artist, would you be an accountant, or would you be something? Would you be a scientist? Would you be an engineer? Would you be a mathematician? What would you be?
I do not gel well with the scientists. With the sciences, like biology, physics is fine, but like biology, all of the squishy sciences is not my favorite. Engineer seems interesting, but like accountant seems fun. Like numbers are fun. Physicist is really interesting, especially when you get into the higher physics math, because it's really about multiplying things that aren't real against each other and trying to find. So. Yeah, but like all I really want to do is stay home. Like I don't want to do anything. I just want to stay home.
You would just want to stay home and paint, right? In the studio?
I'll
dabble.
Like I love painting and I will paint. It's the one thing I don't have to schedule. Like I have to schedule everything else and I'll paint around it. But like all of the paperwork, all of the work, I have to be on point, so those 2 hours allow me the rest of the time to do whatever I want. Painting, I don't have to schedule, but like the studio is home, and like home is home, and like if I'm in the studio, like I tell a lot of students who I teach art that sometimes art happens on the couch because you're thinking about what you have to paint, you're thinking about what you have to draw, you're putting things together. And that's really important time to understand what you're doing. And then you paint. But like most of the ideas come from the studio of maybe the couch and being in the studio to make work. So.
Just to pivot back to the work, there's a question for Kurt, from Kurt. Actually, there's a couple of questions, but we'll.
So my name is Kurt Boris. I'm a peer mentor with the MILE program and also Student Government Association treasurer. So the question is when you created your artwork and you ended up displaying it, was there any type of legal or civil litigation or pushback from some of the original comic creators or editors?
No, not yet. They don't want that smoke. Like the problems they have with representing this diversity and real people and just any sort of difference, and with the fans and their blowback from that, like, I'm dying to have that conversation. I'm built for it. Like, I'm ready. Like, we can go all day. You don't want to, but they don't want that. They want to make comics that make movies that make billions of dollars and sell toys. So, like, yeah.
I think, Kurt, you have a follow-up question to that, though. Yeah.
So the follow-up question is to this day, do you still find systemic racism within the comics that are released today?
So, if you notice, if you look, the introduction of almost every character of color has a negative feedback loop. Like, it gets blowback. Right now, there's, I think Riri Williams, who is like the new Iron Man, Ironheart, is really portrayed negatively, but she's coming to some movies or TV or something. When Miles Morales was first introduced, hate, nothing but hate. They are all one good movie away from everybody's favorite. Like, it only takes a good movie. Because when he was introduced, there was the death of the Ultimate Spider-Man, and people were like up in arms. Like, they were distraught with his being black, with his being, I think he's Puerto Rican? I'm not sure. Yeah, he's like, I lived in New York for a long time. Puerto Rican and Dominican is really big difference. Like, I'm not, so I think his mom is Puerto Rican. And the blowback on that was incredible. And the loop, and there's Comicsgate. They're trying to sell the same stories to the same people who have always bought them. And then there's another aspect of the community that is reaching out to young people to give them stories. And, you know, it's like Star Wars. Some people don't understand that the movies that they make now are for kids. Like, we want the same stories. But, you know, as Maynard James Keenan from Tool said, if you really want to hear that album, you can just go back and listen to it. Like, I'm not going to make that album again.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. So you have taught, I should say, a wide range of ages.
Yep.
College, grade school. You're currently you're teaching middle school.
I'm doing both at the same time.
And you're doing
Yeah.
doing both at the same time.
So, no.
But can you talk a little bit about the different approaches that you might have to, say, being, in a classroom with your middle schoolers, versus, teaching maybe an independent study for a college student?
It's a difference in seriousness, I would say, because there's also the difference between like an art student who is taking an art course and a student who's a general education student who's taking an art course as part of their curriculum, right? The art student is there to learn art, and I will give them every single tool that helps them to become the artist that they want to become. For those who are not there for that purpose, I want to give them an understanding of what art is, because I think it translates across multiple different fields. And the act of observation and then recreation that is inside of art can be very, very beneficial. But it's one-on-one. I'll meet them where they are, because I'm selfish enough that it doesn't have to be about me.
Well, do you think it's difficult to teach art in general, or I'm thinking creativity? Do you think that that's something that you can teach someone to be creative, or is there something else to it?
I can teach you either the skills that it takes to represent stuff artistically, or how to think about what you're doing. Because I think when you think about what you're doing as an artist and you're very introspective and also critical about what you want to say and how you want to say it, that is a structure that can move itself through whichever way of creation that you want to be doing. So And then the final piece is you got to get it out there for people to see. But like, yeah, I think I can teach you how to be an artist. I can't make you an artist because you have to decide what you want to do. Right. But like, I can teach you the steps to do it. And then you can spend the rest of your life obsessing over whether you're good or not.
Right. There's another question from a Miles student. Cole?
Hello, my name is Cole Villagomez. I'm a student at Mile Program. My question for you is, do you plan on continuing your artwork, and what is next?
Yeah, so I'm really excited. I have about 40 paintings that are almost finished that I think I'll finish by the end of the month. And then I get to paint. Like, so once I finish painting, I get to paint because there are like hundreds of them that I'm ready to do. The difference between this and the other work that I've done and I do is that each one of these is a separate sort of art in itself. And so it's interesting to go inside of like different art styles constantly and to jump around from them. So, yeah.
Because this body of work that we have at the gallery right now is what, like 64 covers, right? Mm-hmm. How many covers do you have in total for this particular series? Do you know?
I do not know.
No.
Yeah, I'm as much art as I will talk. I am terrible at record keeping, and I'm terrible at tracking. Mm-hmm. So I have stuff that people could go through and figure out. Yeah. But like, it's over 250. I think it's approaching 300 before these other ones are finished. But like, I have a bunch of PDFs that are half finished. Uh-huh. Not
well,
PDFs.
I know you shared
Excel
with
sheets.
me over 250 that I curated this from. Like, so I had to take 250 and
but that's only because I just had the retrospective where the 250
right, that was
were shown.
very helpful. Yeah.
Like, if it wasn't for that, like.
But how long does it take you generally to work on one cover? Like, do you have multiple covers? Because you have multiple projects, like you have abstract painting, which are larger. I'm assuming larger than 6 inches by 9 inches, which is what these covers are. So, yeah.
I can't say because I'm not working on one at a time. Like, so I'm working on one here and then I'm working on another one here. Like, if you locked me in a room and locked me with one painting, I'm sure I could get it done. Yeah. But like, my solution to a lack of focus, I can't say it's ADHD because that's a real like diagnosis, and you know, just like people say they have OCD. No, you're just picky. Right. You just like things where they are. Like, my solution to that is to work on a lot of things at the same time. Yeah. And so, like, I have a lot of stuff that's been 2 years in the making, but like, sort of lost interest in finishing it. Yeah. And a lot of stuff that in between that time got finished because it was more interesting.
Well, that makes me think, do you ever feel like there's been a cover or a painting, I say cover, but a painting that failed, that just didn't work, and you're like, no, this is just not gonna, I'm not gonna show this, I'm not gonna, because they are kind of delicate, right? I mean, can you describe, like, I guess, how you actually work on that cover, like what's involved with that, but then also be like, have you ever had one that just didn't work at all, it was a failure?
Lots that I think are failures, but I don't know because I'm too close to it. Like, so when I finish it, I know that I wanted to do this part just slightly different, or I wanted to do this and I wanted to do that, and it didn't work itself out that way because the painting didn't really lend itself to that and whatever. Yeah. And when other people see it, they're like, that's the one. I'm like, that's the one I hate the most. And so I am like, I'm not going to be the judge of what's successful in my own work. Like, I'll just let that be someone else's. Like, you know, like, because everybody has favorite children. But like, you don't ever say it out loud. Like, I'm not the favorite child and I know it, but it's like that. And far as the way to paint them, it always starts from the titles for me. And I like to do like a sort of a base, which is either white paint or something like slightly off-white to get the general shape of where things are going. It's sort of like a photograph or like trying on glasses where you're just kind of clicking until it sharpens itself up and then it's crystal clear at the end.
Do you consider yourself an optimistic person or a pessimistic person?
Yeah, I believe the world is always going to fall apart. I believe at the beginning of every day that this is going to be the worst day that possibly happens, and I go through what's the worst possible scenario in every single aspect of my life. But I seem optimistic because that worst thing usually never happens. Like it's never happened. Maybe once, but like, so my day is usually better than I thought it was going to be, and that compares to other people, like because if you go out with an optimistic mindset, if you're not an optimistic person and you receive like a bad moment, it can really hurt that that optimism that you were trying to maintain. So, yeah. So
Well, it makes me think of the messages in your work, right? And do you think that creating work like this, can it change people's minds about systemic racism? Can it prevent police brutality? Can it, can it change racial profiling? Like,
well, I don't know, but one of the things that that helps with that, not pessimism, but realism, whatever, is that I do every single thing possible to get what I need to do. Like if I wanted to apply for something, like when I applied to grad schools, I applied to every single grad school that I definitely knew I wanted to go to. And when you do more than you possibly should have to, when you do everything that you could have done, you don't have any, like, there's no reason to feel sad about it.
Right.
Because there's nothing more I could have done.
Yeah.
And I would hope that, like, doing as much as I can, shining as much of a light, leaving a record of what it truly is, like, after that, like, because I can't write. Well, I can write, but, like, I have a friend who's a poet, compared, like, just the amount of effort that it takes to do those things and the output that comes out of it is 1/100th of what this is. And if I can leave this record, maybe. But yeah, if I do everything possible, then I don't have to feel sad or guilty or that I could have been more.
Well, I guess I have one final question, I guess, because we are an academic institution and we have students that we advise and mentor all the time. What would be your advice to a STCC student who might be struggling to stay engaged creatively or just, surviving this thing we call college?
It's not boring. It's not procrastination. You just don't like it. Like if you're in like a science course or a math course or an English course and you're like procrastinating for 3 days about a thing you have to do, it's because you hate doing that thing, right? Like, so like my thing, not in community college when I was in community college, but when I got to a 4-year college, like 8 years later, was I did everything as soon as it came up, like I did it. It was finished to a point where like I could go back to it later when it was due and edit it, but I never did because like it wasn't fun. And I also I did every project and everything that was due, all homework, on Fridays because like I had most of Friday off and I wouldn't leave until all of that stuff was done on Friday because I like to have fun on Fridays and Saturdays. And Sundays, watching people stagger into the library frustrated and like scared was amazing when you had done your work. So like just like, yeah, it's not gonna be fun. You're not gonna find this magical bullet where you're like, oh, now I suddenly understand that English is the best thing in the world. Just like get the paper over with, find a step process that you can write that thing and just like write that thing.
Yeah.
Just write that and write it now so that later on you can have pizza and you can hang out with your friends and you can just like relax.
Yeah, have a little less stress, right? Yeah, because it's stressful to procrastinate. It creates more anxiety. It could be,
Yeah.
It's compound anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be fun when you do it later either. But like you get all of the stress in between when you procrastinated all the way up to when you did it.
Yeah.
So yeah, just carve out some time now, do it, think it's bad, and then go back and read over it and understand that it's still going to be bad and just turn it in.
And hope for the best.
Yeah, well, I do have like a step-by-step cheat plan that a philosopher gave me on writing a paper, and it was just you bullet point what you actually want to say, just 1 or 2 words about what you actually want to say, and then you put it in order so that you have like just the bullet points in order. Then you kind of put the little phrases together, like of what you're saying, and see if they like make sense, and then you kind of separate them by things, all easy, and then you've kind of got the paper. You might as well just make sentences out of it,
Yeah.
and then you're done. But it was never serious.
Right. Well, I can't thank you enough, Kumasi, J. Barnett, for sharing your work with our STCC students and staff and faculty and the greater Springfield community. We are just so thrilled that this work is still going to be on view through November 10th. And also, I can't thank you enough for coming up from Baltimore and really spending some time. It's been really wonderful to have you here for an extended, period. So I really appreciate your time, your artwork, your energy, your honesty.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here.
It's great.
Been great.
Thank you.
Thank you.